Good morning. This is your crypto a day morning. Today's date, February the 4th, 2019. All bets, trades of the like, that is within each's own risk and their own reward. We'll take a look at Bitcoin, Aid Coin, Theta Coin, talk a little bit about the Super Bowl, and a little bit about an NHL game for tonight's action. We have all of these lower highs. We have lower lows, albeit each time barely not making that much of a leg, but the downtrend is most certainly in place. Previous level of support, this one in here, was supported again, resisted here and not there. This level of support, well, it's being resisted right now, so therefore if we're having another leg lower, will we soon, or I be soon saying, oh, we're resisting 33.78? Maybe. For days now, it has had a break below, but nothing of a major clear one. It's really doing a whole bunch of nothing. The only bullishness on the short term that I can give it is I got an uptrend line. It's not much of one, and it's not for many days. But we have an uptrend here, sort of an uptrend here, but more of a straight line there. We'll take a look at that more clearly on the 4-hour time frame. And amongst it in here, this is your like uptrend line. I mean, that's not straight, but it still technically would be in play however you draw it. And then I guess you could put a line like that, but again, I think the a straight line serves the purpose well enough at around 34 2/3. So not much really to say here. At least I'm going to be finished talking about Bitcoin in this video. Let's move on to that of Theta. And I'm just going to ignore these days in here, but this is definitely level of resistance on any breakout that I see that this can go up to. Pretty much its all-time highs twice hit at this previous level, because when Binance opened this up, it moved into an all-time, it was pretty much already at all-time highs as it was, so the original move got it up close to 4,000 as it was, so twice hit level at around 3,500 Satoshi. How it plays out now, since it hit this bottom at around 1,200, it established this level of resistance on the low end at around 13. This line here represented where the upper end of resistance it established, got above it on the 25th of January, but the correctionary phase, the correctionary move, had to do what you'd want it to do on a bullish level, and that is support these many hit areas of previous day highs. It did so. It did it on the 28th, and it did it once again on the 31st. The next day, the first day of February, the great breakout. Well, that's not the name, but it was a great breakout above the 18 average of highs. So like the Great Recession was a noun name. That's what came to my mind when I said that. Regardless of that, this move here on yesterday's session, Super Bowl Sunday, came down to the twice hit level of resistance on the 29th and 30th of January, and today's session has broken out barely past the high from 2 days ago, and has retraced a good amount of its intraday moves. This level here represents where I'm selling, so obviously I missed the sell order, and the reason why I'm choosing 1798, other than the fact that it works out mathematically well for my last trade, which was about 200 basis points lower at about 1600, is because if it hits this level, that means I'm going to be thinking it's got a good chance of breaking out for good gains, and now I can start having my next further sell orders much higher. And regardless of its move, to me, I'm just going to wait for it to do what it needs to do. But I like how it's responding so far amongst the daily chart. And then within the 4-hour term, this was that first correctionary move that came back in here. But after this rally at this point, which yesterday's move was a retest of that previous level, well, last time it successfully supported where it needed to resist. Perfect for buy orders. Perfect for that of just wanting to just watch the market and assess the market on a move by move basis. And after it did such, didn't break down to its previous congestion area, got above it. So now, after it successfully corrected resistance, it's got to do it again if it's going to do so, or it would be in that of a higher level for the previous resistance area just over the last few periods. To me, seems to be at around 1656. Let's move this to an hourly time frame. I could probably reduce it even to about 1643. It was resistance in here at about the 3 a.m. session on that day. This line, we got this line, we got this line piercing above, and we got this line hitting perfect. And on the breakout, this is after the green candle where it consolidated for 1 hour before it had the next leg higher. As the hour stands, you could say it's in the upper end of this, or just because it's at the 18 average of highs and near this level of previous resistance. So the band from now to a pierce below 1643, therefore definitely around 1630 anyway, is that must hold area. And if it does it, I'm looking very enthusiastic of a next leg higher, like it of course did the last time when it held the level of support. It didn't have much of a leg here, but it still did break resistance and so on and so forth. But it looks like everything is still live from this entire range from whereabouts these lines are at 1472 and 1798. And for me, what really matters is the break of the 18, 1900, 2000 area. Then this thing could go so wild that the previous high, and who knows after that, becomes very live to hit. And who knows how quick of a period of time, because when we had the move on the end of November, quick period of time, yeah, I'd say so. Just took about a few hours in the morning to have that move of about a 3x scale. Looking next at the AID coin, it's having a lot of congestion right now amongst the previous resistance high, barely above 1,000. Right now it's barely below 1,000 at this price. For its fourth consecutive day, hanging in there within the 18 highs as support, and barely expanding higher, or still resisting this short-term level, not breaking out, not breaking down, while it really keeps this pattern such a strong setup, just that stronger, as we see the probability odds of this have, to me, a much higher chance of a decent leg higher going forward as we do of a decent leg lower. That's the general way that I'm looking at it, because when these cryptos have its moves of going up and back down so fast, they're almost artificial, only price pay. So having sell orders, hey, it works. But when you have the big move, what's important is always holding those key areas. So in past situations in here, right in here, it didn't hold the 18 average of highs or even the 18 average of close and get above it quickly. No, it didn't do that. And in this one here, it did. It did hold the 18 average of highs. And then after this leg, it went below it, which is fine, newly rising and all that type of stuff. It didn't even go to the 18 average of lows. It very easily could have and kept the bullish pattern. But that's what I look at. A lot of these previous situations in here, when it had its move. Now this is a situation where it did hold the 18 average of lows, but it was unable to break out thereafter. That's a decent leg lower. And when it gave you the warning sign on November the 12th, after it broke down below the support and came back. And then even just looking back at November 12th through 13th, when you look at this pattern, you got this move down that broke support, came back. So that didn't necessarily mean that it was going to break down, because oftentimes before a good move, you're going to get a failed move in the opposite direction, which is what this could have looked like, especially on the 13th with this green candle higher. But with this red candle lower really gave you the telltale sign. 3 pause candles to that single day and really triple day move. No surprise that the following took place thereafter. And all of these times when these moves like this happen, coming down to the 18 lows, again, this is a situation where it wasn't able to break out and hold. It did break out on this day, but it came right back to near the 18 average of closes, wasn't able, and really on the second time, when you have this move, you want it to hold the 18. So it kind of did. So now it has it again. Even though it's a lower high, it's still good enough above the 18 average where now I want to hold. I mean, there really wasn't much for resistance in here, but quite frankly, the 18 average of highs is where you'd want to see this rally of held, but it didn't do such. And then all of these moves in here, just a pure artificial move. And as a trader, the more of these artificial moves, the better, because only price pays. And well, it didn't do anything but just keep its boring trend moving, and so on and so forth. Same thing with this one here. Big move up here. It just kept it going as it was, which was a decline going sideways at that point. Okay, now let's move on to some sports action and wagering and amongst such. This is fantasy football. I will be putting on more. I'll be putting more information up later in the day. I still got things I want to calculate. The New England Patriots defeated the Los Angeles Rams in a barn burner, 13-3. I did hit my proposition wager correct, that nobody was going to miss an extra point. It was minus 380 odds. And I was looking at that, well, it's going to, I'm going to lose this, 1 in every 7 or 8 times, I'm thinking. Yeah, I'm making that wager. And I did, although I thought over and over about making the wager on the Super Bowl overtime against Atlanta, which lost when I said no, it would not go to it, the easy chalk bet. But I only had 1 touchdown kick to sweat, and I really didn't. Okay, I did sweat it. But hey, it went through. Edelman had the top score, costing 16.2 thousand on DraftKings at 27.9 fantasy points. He was the best player. He was the MVP. It really was down to him and the punter. Man, Allen of New England, he punted effectively. Maybe not quite as often as was the case in Los Angeles, but punters. If you're a punter fan, good Super Bowl for you. Cooks, and a Patriots fan as well. Cooks got 23 points, costing 8,200. Sony Michel 15, costing 6,800. Gronk's got close to that, costing 6,000. The New England defense getting 13 points. They played magnificent as a core. I mean, and that's an understatement saying magnificent. They costed 2,800. Hard to get major points. And off the bat, the St. Louis Rams defense got it done early. They had 1 interception and a sack in the first quarter, and I mean the score was just low scoring throughout. And then you had Woods getting 12.5 fantasy points. This was the perfect lineup. It costed on DraftKings 47,800, and 5 people had that lineup. So in the $3 game, 43,000 of the 100,000 first prize is what those 5 people ended up getting, leaving 2,200 off on their cap. Again, I'm going to go over more about team captains. I put in 1 lineup in the 25-cent game to see if how many people would have it, just the large numbers. I'm going to see how many people had it in not only the 25-cent game, but the $3 game. I also did one with, I was going to put in, I did actually at first, the Anderson guy on New England, the tight end. But I checked the inactive report. He was inactive. So I put another guy in, which was Dwayne Allen, just for fun in the 25-cent game. I'll show that in the next video as well. Go over a few other little tidbits that I can on that, and then move forward, because the only other game with the captain after that is really basketball. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about that. NHL tonight, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs hosting the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. Not a good movie, the Mighty Ducks was. I actually found it okay, but when that movie came out, I was pretty much a teenager, and I was a big-time hockey fan, and I kind of thought it was shot well, and I knew it was for kids, but it was still difficult to watch as a hockey fan and player at the time. Alrighty. They're playing Anaheim, the Maple Leafs are, and they're a bad team. And it just seems over and over and over again, what the Leafs are supposed to do, they're doing the opposite for the most part. Not based on the favorite line, but based on the opponent. They played Pittsburgh last game. They're a good team, and they beat them. And then a really bad team in Detroit. They're struggling this year against the Red Wings, and they lose. Washington, a good team with Ovechkin. They beat them. Arizona, not so good. They lose. Florida, horrible team. They lose to them. Tampa Bay, and then Capitals means they're the home team. So in this case, Detroit, Florida, Tampa Bay were at home. Tampa Bay is the best team in hockey, and they beat them. Colorado, I put bad in there because they started off good. They're kind of 500, but they're such on a bad streak coming in that I have no choice but to deem them on that game as bad. And they at least lost. And then against Boston, who were a good team, well, they at least lost. So in the last 7 games, to me, if the Leafs play a good team, they win. If they play a bad team, they lose. And they're playing a bad team tonight against Anaheim. I'm not betting it because it's the All-Star break and these bye weeks of like 5 extra days off. I'm just going to keep it easy for the next 4 or 5 days and let new recent trends format themselves into play. Toronto's 0-3 during these games as a -200 favorite. Before then, they were 5-2. That makes them 5-5 on the season as heavy chalk. 5-5. Was 5-2, now it's 5-5. They're also better on the road than they are at home. They are playing in this game, of course, on the home situation. And they also have 1 day off. They don't do as well with 1 day off. They do better if they have more rest or if they have no rest. Now, granted, against Pittsburgh, they had no rest. Yeah, and they won. So, yeah, they had no rest against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And they had a lot of rest, but it was one of those weird ones of like 27 days off. And technically speaking, it was like 9 or 8. Thank you for tuning in and have yourself a great day. And again, this is just an opinion play. I'm not betting this at all in any single way. The only way I'll be wagering sports tonight, unless something comes available to me I can't expect, is that via fantasy. There will be no other wagers. Have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.